What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 29 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and we are going to have an absolutely amazing week for you guys as it is a course that we have not covered very much at all on the HHH Racing Podcast, if not ever. I think this, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the first time we've covered Horseshoe Indianapolis on the podcast, but man, do they have a really good card this Saturday. They have 12 full races, 8 stake races, 2 of them graded, 6 of them listed, but Indiana bred fillies, open company, 3-year-olds and up, 3-year-olds only. It's an absolutely great card, and we're big fields as well. So we're really excited to share it with you guys, but we're not going to waste too much time here in the beginning. But I want to say welcome to all of you guys out there, and we'll go through the peripherals right now because we do have something very, very exciting that was announced not only on Twitter by the boss Howard Kravitz, but also through YouTube and everything else. But I want to go over that real quickly with you guys. But if you are brand new here, or you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, please go down below the video player and hit subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets you know whenever we post a brand new video to the channel. And while you're down there, please hit that like button, as that pushes this video out on the YouTube algorithm to hopefully reach more viewers like yourself. So please do that. We'd greatly appreciate it. If you're more of an audio listener, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Those are our 3 main audio platforms that we not only post every episode of Bettin N Boozin, but every single episode that goes up on the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel goes up on audio as well. Please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. But guys, I want to bring up, obviously, you all know our amazing power picks that went up, that are up every single weekend for you guys at $16.99 or $15.99 a month, which comes out to about $4 a weekend. One of the best and most affordable tip sheets given out on all of social media. We have a 2.59 ROI, which is almost $1 over the national average of horse players. So if you haven't done that, I don't know why you haven't done that yet. And if you have, there's something special in for you guys. But brand new coming to you for this summer is the brand new Saratoga Power Picks. It's actually on there twice. We're so excited about it. That's my fault, guys. I apologize. But we are doing brand new Saratoga Power Picks every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this summer through the Saratoga meet. And not only does it come with the Power Picks you guys know and love, it will come with a YouTube show every single morning, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for you guys. Most of them will be live. Some of them will have to be taped due to scheduling reasons, but it is going to be an absolutely great tip sheet for you guys. And I will bring it up right now. We're selling them both individually by the week and by the entire meet. So I'm going to bring that up right now. This is, again, on HHHRacingPodcast.com. As I bring it up now, I'm going to go full screen. So again, HHHRacingPodcast.com. You have the different banners on the top. It's under Power Picks Tip Sheet at the top. And you can see it's the top thing now, Saratoga only Power Picks Tip Sheet. It includes everything you love between the ABC grids, top 3 picks for each race, price and spot plays, stats for every single weekend of the Saratoga meet. It comes out to about $15 a weekend. That's $5 a day for the tip sheet. Again, extremely affordable, as your normal power picks give you $4 a weekend for 2 tracks. But this is Saratoga every single day. Again, comes out to $5 per tip sheet. And you can buy, again, okay, excuse me, I'm getting too ahead of myself here. I'm going to put myself back on screen. This is for current Power Picks subscribers. So if you have the Power Picks right now, and again, we have a list, we know who's subscribed. So there's no screwing the system here. But if you are subscribed to the Power Picks, you get these at a 25% discount as to your non-Power Pick subscribing counterparts. Again, that's $5 a day for you Power Pick subscribers on top of your normal Power Pick subscription. It is $15 a weekend, and this is all billed. So if you buy one weekend, you're going to have to go back to the website and buy it again for the next weekend. It does not work like Patreon, where it's it's an auto subscription. So you'll have to go back to the website every single time. It is through PayPal. So any debit card, credit card, anything like that will work. And you can buy for the full meat power picks, which comes out to $105 for the entire meet. That'll get you one free weekend. So I believe it is 9 weekends, I believe. So you'll get all 9 weekends for the price of 8. Comes out to about $105 even. And for you non-Power Pick subscribers, which I don't know why you're not subscribed to the Power Picks, but if you are not subscribed, it comes out to $20 for the weekend, which is $6.67 or whatever per day, and the full meet jumps up to $140 for you non-Power Pick subscribing. But guys, that's still extremely affordable. And again, you get 3 days for that $20 of all Saratoga action, all stakes action, anything you guys want to be covered for this Saratoga meet. I would highly, highly recommend you get in on the all new Saratoga Power Picks by the HHH Racing Podcast that will not only get done by Howard, Pete, Paul, myself, Charlie, Patrick. Every single person will have a say in these Power Picks. So guys, if you have do you have any reason to do well this year at Saratoga, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com/Power Picks tip sheet. Again, it's hhhracingpodcast.com. At the top banner, it's Power Picks tip sheet. That is how you go sign up, guys. But if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the live chat, as I will be able to answer them, and everyone else on the panel should be able to answer some questions. But I'm going to bring everyone on. We're going to get into a little bit of comments here, and then we'll get into the hard-hitting handicapping, as we have 8 races to go through for today. So, guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-hosts from the Chicago area now, Charlie Freeman, and stepping in for Patrick for the second week in a row. You guys loved him last week, so we had to bring him back this week. Noah Maher. Charlie, what's going on, my guys?
What's up?
What's up, guys?
What's up, man? Nothing. Just bringing it up.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Noah was having a little bit of issues before the show, but I'm glad everything got sorted out. And then again, we'll go through a little bit of comments here, and then we'll get into it. Steven Vanderbrook, good evening. Smash the like button. Again, a very astute viewer. Everyone smash that like button if you are here. Racing Downwind is here. Bettin N Boozin, no losing is the obvious as the motto of the show. Racing Downwind, thanks so much for joining the show. Charles B says hopes Raylu is riding for Steve Asmussen. I hope so too. I mean, Raylu's a great rider, so if Asmussen's able to get him, that's definitely an upgrade to some of these riders that are riding in Indianapolis. No shade involved, but I'm just saying. But Terry Franks is profitable for the Power Picks. Absolutely, Terry. And again, thank you for that donation before. I don't think you've been on the show since that. So thank you again, Terry. Congratulations on those winnings. Michael Austin says 99% of players are going to go broke and live in their cars at track parking lots. Well, yeah, of course. Why do we gamble? We gamble to go broke, of course. But Steven Vanderbrook, so here, Jim Pillar's already a Saratoga Power Pick subscriber and cannot wait for the meet to start. Again, a very, very astute viewer. I would follow in the footsteps of Mr. Jim Pillar's. Jim, thanks so much for joining the show, my friend. Jeffrey Wilson, what's going on, my friend? How are you doing? Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Penn State Scott is here. Evening, my friend. Thanks so again for joining the show. And Terry Frank says, hi, Charlie. Especially not to all of us. No, I'm kidding. He said hi earlier, but and the boss is here. Howard, again, thanks for joining the show and watching. So excited to present new live shows and Power Picks for Saratoga. Please join us on the shows and subscribe now. Absolutely, Howard. Could not agree more. And again, if you want to make some money during Saratoga, this is the way to do it. Thanks again, Howard. And then and then Michael Austin goes, Noah was Gaffleone for a sec. Yeah, we got Tyler Gaffleone's under a different alias on the bottom of the screen there. So you'll have to take. I never realized that you actually do look like Tyler Gaffleone. That's actually really funny. I never noticed that until now. But like I said, guys, we're going through races 4, 5, and 7, which are the stakes races before the late pick 5. We're going to go through them pretty quickly, as obviously we market this show and the flagship show as late pick 5 handicapping shows. But we want to give you guys all this different stakes action that are all the different insight on the stakes action that is happening on Saturday. Unfortunately, Patrick had a family emergency, so he will not be here, and Noah is stepping in for him on pretty short notice. So Noah did not get his picks in for the first 3 races that we're going to talk about, the quick races, but he will have his picks in for the late pick 5. Again, Noah, I told you before, but I greatly appreciate you coming on such short notice. And again, people loved you last week, so there's no better person to have on again this week. But Charlie, we're going to go over them real quick right now. Race 4, I'm going to bring up the Equibase. It is the Mari Holman George Memorial Handicap. Is $100,000 for fillies and mares 3-year-old and up, going 1 1/16 on the dirt. It is a full field of 9 as I bring up the Equibase right now. The morning line favorite is Draws the Rail, the number 1. the
podcast legend,
the podcast Hardy Constitution that we sat here and talked about 15 minutes, and the horse went off at 1 to 9.
And I think this one's going to go off at less than even money again.
I really do. She definitely has.
That's why we got to keep this one brief, because it's
yeah,
probably going to be 4 to 5.
We're going quick, but Charlie, the floor is yours, my friend. What do we like so much about Hardy Constitution?
Love Hardy Constitution. I mean, the horse continues to deliver, continues to do the exact same trip in similar figures, and they're good enough to win this race again. Just sit right off those leaders by a couple, 2-3 lengths, and then go right by when it matters most. Again, I know the last effort wasn't impressive because of the field, but again, I was on this horse 2 efforts back when it wasn't going off as the favorite, and Hardy Constitution performed. I think she does it again. Again, I like the mix of early and late pace. I like the versatility. Joe Sharp's has had her ready to go over and over. The workouts say yes, this horse should win.
Yeah, and I think after that race at Penn, I mean, she's really just good on all surfaces is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's what we learned for sure.
But the thing is that I don't see her sitting a different trip than what she's gotten in the past few. Like, she's just going to sit right off the speed. I think on the dirt, 2 back, she sat a little bit farther back, but she was able to clear them with ease. I think she just sits the same stalking trip she sat at Penn and just goes by everyone realistically, because there's I mean, the 2's going to want to go for the lead. The 3's not slow by any means. The 5's probably going to have to go for the lead. The 8's not slow. The 8's going. So there's definitely a decent amount of speed for Hardy Constitution to sit in the middle and pounce at the top of the stretch, which is, I'm sure, is what you saw as well, Charlie. Real quick, talk about your underneath horses, and I'll talk about mine. We'll move on.
Yeah, so with the 4 and the 9, I mean, Take a Stand ran a very respectable effort against Hardy Constitution. I remember, again, watching that race and having Hardy Constitution. But again, that was one of the horses where when I rewatched the replay of that race, stood out to me as a horse who, again, you look at with the odds, wasn't getting much attention, but has ran respectable efforts. You know, obviously is second by 12 lengths because last time out, the winner of that race just dominated the field. But again, you're really just looking for other horses to take a chance on. I think Take a Stand could, again, sit a solid trip here. I think, unfortunately, since Take a Stand runs similarly to Hardy Constitution but doesn't have the same late kick, probably won't win, but again, could be an interesting horse to put underneath. And then for the 9 horse, again, my angle with the 9 horse, honestly, was none of the speed horses really stood out to me. They all kind of tend to fade. So my angle with the 9 horse was maybe there's a situation where since this isn't the strongest field, where Hardy Constitution, you know, kind of gets going early with the other horses and maybe kind of makes the move a little too quickly, which would then set up Soul of Angel, who you can see doesn't have bad early pace, but it's definitely more of a horse that likes to kick on late and will be at the very back. So that was my angles. In case it is a quick pace, I would say Soul of Angel would benefit from that and could close up and win this race. I don't think it'll happen, but again, also another one you could get for a decent price. But yeah, I just think Hardy Constitution will win pretty easy here.
Yeah, and I do agree with you, Charlie. Sorry, Charles. My fault, my friend. He says the rail is not rail is not friendly at Indy for wins, and it takes a special kind of horse to win from that post. I do agree with you, Charles, but it comes to the fact of I just think she's going to drop back and just sit a perfect trip and tip out at the top. I do agree with you though, because a lot of my horses for Crown's Way run at Horseshoe Indy, so I'm very familiar with the track. So I'm hoping that she just is able to sit outside of horses from the rail or just tip out at the top of the stretch and run by, as she seems to be better. My problem with Soul of an Angel, Charlie, was this horse hasn't won since a 25 optional at Gulfstream last year, which is about 7 months ago at this point. I mean, she's ran in really tough races, don't get me wrong, but she never really has had, and against very nice horses. I mean, just going off Mary Quaquin Cherry, Personal Best, Classy Edition, Leda Vida, and also I have a stat for this horse, but she hasn't won in a long time. She's going to sit in what I think is probably the back of the pack. This is where she does her best running. And Sullivan Angel, I don't know really how good she is anymore. I mean, she has the numbers, and this is definitely a much easier spot than what she's been running against. But the horse is coming back in 2 weeks off of 1 to 2 league layoffs. Gerald James, who has won 5% of his races so far this year in 2023, off a 1 to 2 week layoff. You can see in the up here, it's pretty small, but he's 3 for 55 off of 1 to 2 week layoffs with a 35% in the money. And this horse is definitely one that, or Sullivan Angel's one that can be one of those outlying statistics, but I'm going to stay away from this horse, especially since she's coming back so quick, which is why I don't have her in my top 3. Again, I do completely agree with you on Take a Stand, though. And the 2 I have is Little King's Princess. I thought was interesting. This race is on the dirt where she does her best running. She's going to be the speed of the speed out to the front from the rail. And I think as long as she can stay and hold on, I think she's the best out of all of them. Just a matter of is she going to get run down? Like probably about the 8th pole in the stretch. I think she will, just based on Hardy Constitution's post. But I thought she was very interesting at a price of 8-1, where I think she's probably the speed of the speed in this spot. But again, just real quick, we're gonna rattle these off. I'm going 1-2-4. Charlie's going 1-4-9, and Patrick, who unfortunately is not here, is going 1-9-3. Charlie, moving on to race 5 as I switch over to the Equibase here. It is the Ellen's Lucky Star handicap, $100,000, going 1 mile on the turf for Indiana bred fillies, which draws a full field of 12. I mean, like I'll put us on full screen here, but when I switch to PPs, but as obviously, like I said, I know these Indiana bred fillies. I'll take Noah off. Noah's having connection issues, but obviously he won't be on until race 8 anyway. But I know these Indiana bred fillies well, as I part own 2 of them. But I mean, Indiana bred fillies going 1 mile on the turf draws a full field of 12. I mean, there's a lot of very big field. I think the smallest field that we're going to talk about today is like 8 horses. And, everyone's always complaining about field sizes, but they don't look to, places like Horseshoe for big fields. And this is a very, very good card.
I was surprised because normally the Midwest, and you can speak this with our Arlington days, normally the Midwest area outside of Kentucky, you just don't really get big fields. It's normally they all either go to Kentucky, or if they want to go, northeast, you go to New York. You want to go south, you go to Florida, you go to the West Coast.
It's the big money, right?
Area, yeah, if you're Midwest area, you just go to Kentucky. That's normally how it goes. I mean, I remember at Arlington when we were just hoping for 8s. If you got an 8-race field, you're like, yeah, it's good enough, we'll take it. You'd have a lot of 6-race fields, and that's honestly what you get in Indianapolis a lot of the time. And it's no shade towards Indianapolis. It's just, again, if you're in the Midwest and you're not Kentucky, that just tends to be how it is. I mean, you look at Ohio and you're looking for 6 horses that are actually legally considered horses if you're going to that track. So, I mean, yeah, no, this was a very impressive. We were talking about it off camera before it started, that this is a very exciting show. And again, I would highly encourage our viewers. I know personally, I don't usually bet Indianapolis all that often, but like this is a card I know I will, because this isn't your typical Indianapolis card. Like if you looked at the field and just blanked out the track, you would assume that this was a Kentucky or New York or Florida or California type of field.
Right. I mean, there's really nice horses in here too. Like it's not just, a bunch of random horses running for this type of money. I mean, you got Verifying in there, and there's a bunch of other ones, but Verifying is definitely the most, mainstream type of name. What if I'll surprise everyone now, I will be there on Saturday for the Indiana Derby. I was able to convince my dad to go with me. So me and my dad are going to be on site. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me at AP Roscoe K, because there will be a lot of content. I'll probably be videoing every single paddock and stuff.
Updates on how the horses look.
That's pretty much my plan, is to go back. I'm going to basically tell my dad around from the paddock to the track to the paddock to the track, but it should be an absolute ton of fun, because I've never been to Horseshoe before. So, and since they completely redid everything, I've always wanted to go check it out. So, but anyway, off that tangent, again, the Ellen's Lucky Star handicap, I cannot remember what it was called. But again, a full field of 12. I switched to the PPs right now as I switch the picks over, and me and you, Charlie, both have the exact same picks. So this is going to go pretty quick, I think. But these races are extremely interesting because they're mile turf races. There's really no horses in here that have done really well on the turf at all.
No. I do want to preface some, by the way. I'm not going to speak for Kyle to defend him. I will say, though, we did both go chalk. We did take the top 3 favorites in order, but I do want to say, I wrote down in my notes, there's a horse I want to mention before we move on to the next race that I think is very interesting between the jockey that the horse got and also how the horse performed. That's at 30-1. So if you are looking for a long shot play in this field, after we get through our top 3 real quick, I do want to touch on this horse. But yeah, starting with the 1 Cornerstone, for me, just the obvious pick. I know, again, I don't normally bet this track, and from our great insight from the viewers, I've learned now that, the rail is not too kind in Indiana, but again, kind of similar to Hardy Constitution. And I just think this horse will get the right trip. And I think Cornering Stone is just too talented to not win. I'm not saying there's other horses that can't compete, but personally, compared to the 4-1 on the 6 and the 3-1 on the 12, I think the 1 is clear cut the best. And if I were playing this race, personally, I'd probably bet on the 1 to win and look for a longer odd horse to maybe take a chance to come in on the money. But I mean, the figures fit. This horse has shown plenty of experience and has shown plenty of talent across multiple races in the past. And again, I think just stacks up well. I mean, you look 2 back, won by 12 lengths after sitting off the pace. And then again, against what in my opinion is a tougher field than this race, ran a respectable second. I mean, again, the horse's form has really improved. Again, that 82 obviously is a huge step forward. Again, even though the horse didn't win, a big jump, which you like to see. And I know the turf is a question, but that's the case for a lot of these horses. And you do see way back in at Saratoga, this horse did run or a little longer on the turf and ran. We don't know what the figure was, but ran a respectable 3rd place. So I also saw that to at least give me a little hope, as well as with solid workouts.
Yeah, I mean, look, and the other thing that I wanted to point out here that I found really interesting on Cornerstone was you'll see this S right here on these races. This is state bred. So these are state restricted races at Indiana, and everywhere else she really hasn't done anything at all. I mean, she ran actually really well. This was a no contest at Saratoga, but she ran well that day and ran decently in this main special weight at Saratoga too. Granted, she got 7th, but she hung with Flight of Passage Flight of Passage. Oh man, that's a Disney reference for anyone that gets it out there. But Pleasant Passage, who is a very, very nice mare. But she ran decent on the turf, and these numbers definitely fit. But you can see in these state bred races, I mean, 2nd, granted by 14, but Hot Little Thing ran completely a freak race that day. Then she came back in the Miss Indiana and won by 4 1/4. Granted, this was all in the dirt, but just humor me for a second. Then she comes back in Indiana in May when they start their meet, and she won by 12 1/4, and then came back in a listed stake last time and lost by 3 3/4. Granted, again, so if she takes to the turf at Indiana, she's done really, really well in these Indiana state bred races, which is what really brought me to Cornerstone for this race. But I'll let you talk about the last 2, and I'll see if I can add anything on, but then we'll move on.
Yeah, so I mean, again, honestly, for this field, I was just looking for improvement in figures, solid efforts. And again, with Star Wisher, this horse at least will go to the front, which you would like is a little bit of a different aspect, as the 1 horse obviously has speed, but will likely prefer to sit a little off the pace. I do think the 12 has the ability to potentially wire this field. I mean, something I tend to look for in speed horses when they're going this far. Obviously, a huge benefit is the fact that this horse did already run on the turf and ran well, as well as the fact that this horse, when it was on the lead, won going away. Granted, was a huge favorite, and this is a big step up in field. But again, a lot of these horses are also making big steps up. So I do think Star Wisher deserves to be at those odds. And then with the 6 horse, again, a similar angle. These 2 are going to go to the front. And another one where I did like to see the horse run away. I'm a little more worried about the 6 because you can see the late speed is a lot weaker. And also because this horse looks very strong in sprint type of races, your 5, 5.5, 6 furlong races. And I do think going a mile is going to be a big ask for this horse. But the thing that gave me confidence is Michael Maker as the trainer. He's a very smart trainer. He knows what he's doing. So if he believes this horse is in it a shot, he wouldn't just throw the horse in to throw the horse in. So I do believe that he believes in Ease Magic. And then the 1 horse I wanted to touch on real quickly for my long shot is the 11 horse, Single Her. Now, this is a horse that ran against Star Wisher in the debut and ran a respectable second. and got bet down pretty well that day. I think actually was the second choice behind Star Wish in that race. But then you look, I mean, the figures obviously aren't great, but then off that big layoff from November of 22 to June of 23, runs up to a 60, which again is not earth-shattering, but for this field is respectable enough to be competitive. And again, another one that went to the lead and won going away. And I'm not saying this horse will win. I'm not saying that. But all I'm saying is for this field to be 30-1, I think Single Her is a very interesting horse to consider to at least put somewhere in your exactas or trifectas. And I would take every bit of that 30-1. I don't think you'll get it. But I mean, I think anything in 15-1 territory and above, this is a horse you have to put somewhere. I just don't think in this field that's a 30-1 horse.
Yeah,
and again,
I mean,
second by 2 lengths to the 3-1 horse that we both like.
I mean, right. If it's 3-1 versus granted that was back when she was 2, but I mean, it's 30-1 versus 5-2. I mean, what's the difference in a 2? Definitely underneath Charlie, especially a horse that's just gonna send out from the lead. She does have a pretty bad post in the 11, but there is a pretty decent run up to the first turn. So I mean, like I always say, I'm not talking you off a double-digit horse, and I don't mind a horse in a field like this that's just going to go out to the lead and never look back. So I really do like it. I agree with you on the 6. That's kind of a maker and trust thing. Although I do think she's very good on the lead. So if she can get there and takes to the turf really well, even though kind of good magic, it's not the best turf sire, but you could, if I go to the breeding on the 6, there is pretty decent. This is the one without this is the one without turf breeding. So that's also why I was a little puzzled with the 6, why Maker decided to bring her into this spot. But the 12 is run really well on turf. Again, really bad post, but not only has she been able to win from the lead, but on a pretty easy lead, but she was able to win from the back on debut. So this horse is pretty versatile, and one came third behind Heavenly Sunday and Isabella Alexandra in an N1X at Keeneland. I mean, this horse definitely fits. Although the figures are a little light, I wouldn't say it's completely out of the realm for a Indiana bred stake. So I completely agree with you, Charlie. 112.6. I think the 12 is extremely interesting on the outside. But me and Charlie both are 112.6. Charles, I'll talk about the 10 real quick. I mean, it's just the matter of, the horse is, she just hasn't run on turf, and I get it. I mean, all state breds, and she hasn't been able to do anything. She went with a 45 buyer, going 5.5 in a fast pace at 28-1. I mean, realistically, in a race like this is definitely a spread race if you're playing like an early pick 5 or something like that. But she picks up Prescott, and Rodney Prescott's not been winning it at too good of a clip, but he's a very good jockey, and he rides a lot of our horses. But losing by 12.25 to Cornerstone 2 back, I mean, I don't know. It's not a horse I would play, but that's just, like I said, there's a lot of horses doing stuff for the first time. So if she's there at the end, I wouldn't be completely surprised by any means. But moving on to race number 7 is the Snack Handicap. This is the last one before we go really in depth with the pick 5. Charlie, let's go through this one really quickly here. I'm going 6-8-3. Charlie's going 6-3-4. We both have the number 6, King Ice, who is the morning line favorite on top for George Leonard and James Graham. I mean, realistically, this is another horse that hasn't really run on turf at all, but just the numbers fit.
Yeah, for me, it was that simple. The numbers fit. The horse certainly doesn't have early speed, which could work against this horse, but certainly does have closing speed. The one thing that does give me hope, because sometimes when I see a heavy favorite like this, where they do show a lack of early speed, and you could argue, oh no, like some horse could just get away and they can't get there in time. Is I did like the effort 2 back, where you do see that this horse sat a lot closer. Granted, lost by a head, but nonetheless proved that it doesn't you don't have to entirely fear that this horse can't be close enough. But again, just running against other horses that I think are decent in this field and beat them by a decent margin. I mean, on paper, King's Ice makes the most sense and looks the best. And then going into my other 2 quicks real quick for Backyard Justice. I mean, the figures aren't great, but I just like to see that this horse will be more towards the front. And for me, out of the horses that will be towards the front, I feel like this horse has the best chance to actually be able to, stay far enough ahead that the 6 can't get there in time. And then with Bad Boy Geist, or I don't know, this horse again, just
Probably
looking for a long Geist, just looking for a horse again. I know it lost to King's Ice, but didn't run too bad. And again, the figures aren't bad. Another one where, again, I just feel like if you're betting against the favorite who's a heavy closer, the only way you're going to beat a heavy closer is by being a horse that's going to go to the front and have enough gap. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that name, is that an Arlington legend? The jockey?
What? Santos Sanjur. Yes, it is. It is an Arlington
Yeah,
legend.
so then there's another reason to believe in the 4-horse right there, folks. And again, another one where, though, at the very least, on a serious note, at 10-1, why not? Again, I would probably go with the 6, but if you're looking for a horse to either take as a long shot to win or to put underneath, if it were me, I'd look for a speed horse at a price out in front.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I mean, the number 4 is, the 8 points less on the buyer, but is that worth like, 2-1 versus 10-1? I mean, probably not. I don't know if the horse will be. I don't know if Bad Boy Geist will be 10-1 at post time, but it'll be interesting to see how the money shakes out, considering there's not a whole lot of turf numbers in this race. I went 6. I completely agree with you, Charlie. He runs his race every single time. Very honest horse, and if he's just able to get the good trip that I envision him getting, if he takes to the turf, he should be pretty formidable in here. I want the number 8 Anchorman at 10-1 for Karatoy and Adam Beshizzle my nizzle Beskitza. But again, just a horse that's going to set a really nice stalking trip from an outside post, hopefully like 4th or 5th, and is able to get a good run coming down the stretch. Ran really well at Keeneland in a maiden special weight, comes to Indiana in a state bred and wins going away versus a horse, Backyard Justice, that's in this race. I think the 8 is extremely interesting at a price of 10-1. Not sure if you'll get that, considering there's not a whole lot of turf form, and this is one that has turf form. But I think Anchorman is extremely interesting. And my last horse I have is Backyard Justice as well. Completely agree with you, Charlie. The figures are a little light, but this is another, Backyard Justice, another one that has turf form for Arlington legend Tony Granitz. So, I mean, look, there's a lot of, you can really go into a lot of specifics of turf breeding and stuff like that. But with a lot of these Indiana bred horses, you're not going to find too much of it. But you can definitely get bogged down a little bit. But these, both the 5th and the 7th are really kind of hard. If you don't go on top, there's definitely a lot of ways you can go underneath. But again, I'm going 6-8-3. Charlie's going 6-3-4. All right, we spent a little bit of more time on that than I wanted, but it's not too big of a deal. But we are going to go in depth now with the late pick 5 at Horseshoe Indianapolis for Indiana Derby Day on Saturday. And of course, bringing back the laggy man, Optimus Prime himself, Noah Maher. Noah, bringing back on screen. Got to give you a little bit of crap for that one. But
as you should.
Like I said, if you start sounding like Optimus Prime on the show, I'm not going to be the only one giving you crap. That's for damn sure. But switching over to race 8 here, guys, I'm going to show full Equibase for these races. It is the Michael G. Schaefer Memorial Stakes. It is a field of 10. And as I bring up the Equibase right now, the morning line favorite is the number 6 Creative Minister for Brian Hernandez and Kenny McPeak. Second choice is Promise Keeper for James Graham and Dallas Stewart, and third choice is the number 5 Trademark for Fernando de la Cruz and Victoria Oliver. Switching over to the PPs and the picks right now, again, Noah's will also be on screen for these last 5. We're all pretty around the same horses, kind of just bouncing around between the same 4 horses. So this one should be pretty straightforward, at least in our eyes. But Noah, since you haven't talked yet, I'm going to let you go first on the number 6 Creative Minister, who was a horse that was on the Derby Trail come last year and ran really, I think, respectable races, and has come back in optional claiming company this year and really has, put in some really respectable races.
Yeah, this was kind of a weak pick for me. I just kind of defaulted to Creative Minister. I mean, it's just a really nice horse. Been running against some really nice company. There's a lot of speed to the inside, which is pretty interesting. I feel like he could definitely sit the trip, and BJ obviously comes to ride, so that's a plus. The only knock on this horse is he just doesn't really seem to get the job done. Been a very low price in a lot of his races and just hasn't crossed the wire first, so that would probably be my only knock.
Yeah, and like I said, I completely agree with you with the speed of the inside. That's why I have this horse on top. Charlie, did you have anything else to add before we move on to the underneath?
No, I mean, I love Creative Minister. I don't love the price, to be honest, but I do think, which we all kind of have the same idea of, at least in my eyes, is that it's a 3-horse race. And yeah, my angle is I'll dive in more to when we get to the other picks. But just like Noah was going to say, for me, the reason why when we get to our tickets head go, obviously more than one deep in this race, that is my worry with Creative Ministers. This horse tends to close well, but just doesn't get the job done, tends to like to, we sometimes joke about second-itis, but it looks like this horse may have that. And the other concern is, again, that's been going farther, which should help this horse, and now cutting back, I don't think necessarily favors a horse that lacks early speed, which is why, again, as we move into the next two picks of ours, I went with horses that have shown the ability to be either on the lead or just off and stay up there, because that is the way I think Creative Minister gets beat, is if a horse beats the 6, I think it's through a horse that's farther up and gets the first jump and goes by the early speed, and Creative Minister doesn't get there in time. That is my worry if you're someone who is creative on Creative Minister, which I am, but again, why I like other horses as well for maybe a better price.
See, Charlie, I guess that's where we differ, because I could disagree. I think the cutback is really going to help Creative Minister, because you can see in that Keeneland race 2 back at 1 1/8, he actually headed the lead coming down the stretch and just kind of got out finished in the last 1/8 of a mile. So I think if he takes to this cutback where he really hasn't been since last year March at Gulfstream in the maiden race at 7 furlongs. Granted, this is still a 2-turn mile, but I think the cutback's really going to favor Creative Minister, who really just kind of lacks that. He is a really grindy type of horse. He doesn't have. I do agree with you on the fact that he's grindy and he doesn't have necessarily that punch that a lot of these milers would have to be able to win these races. But I think he has the punch. He just kind of falls back a little, or he gets there and then kind of falls back once they hit the last 1/8 of a mile. So I actually like what Kenny McPeek's doing in this race, cutting this horse back, and is able to hopefully hold on. But I do agree that this would be a horse that you try to beat in a spot like this. And I see Matt Miller's echoing the same statements that I'm going to say right now in the chat. But this horse just seems like it just cannot get the job done no matter what. Creative Minister seems to get there and then just kind of, run a nice second, run respectable races, but just can't get the job done in front. So anything below 3-1 on this horse, I would not like to go anywhere near a horse like this. And also Charles B points out a really good points for these is that watch these no Lasix in these stakes races. So a lot of these Indiana bred horses especially are running on Lasix at Horseshoe, and they get off Lasix. So that's something you look at. That's a great thing to be aware of. Charles, thanks so much for pointing that out to me. But again, we're kind of all around the same horses. Noah, you and I have Trademark in second for Victoria Oliver and Fernando de la Cruz. Ran a really nice race at Monmouth last time out behind Petulante, who's a nice horse. I mean, in a cold pace as well, going 48 and 2 to the half. I thought he was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a horse that's owned by BBN Racing. I mean, that's a fact. But for Trademark, I thought he could kind of sit a similar trip to Creative Minister. Yeah. And in that Monmouth race, he ran really nice and he came back pretty quick. So that was kind of a pretty interesting to me. And then the last thing that I thought was kind of a hidden was if you scratch that turf race at Churchill beginning of June, this horse is an improving 4-year-old. Started the year with an 83 and then an 89 in the Ben Ali against a pretty damn good field, Rattle and Roll. And then, that Monmouth race, like you said, closing into a slow pace. So I think this horse has a pretty decent shot.
I completely agree with you. And as you took the words right out of my mouth that I was going to close out with is if you draw a line through that turf race, he's only been improving since the start of the year. So anything, and again, I would argue this is not necessarily an easier field, but I mean, he's faced the class that he needs to be able to beat in this race and run respectable races against him. So I do really like Trademark in this spot as well. Charlie, you have the number 1 Keystone Field in second, who I actually had. I was bouncing between him and the 8 between my third spot. So I definitely am interested in Keystone Field as well, who I have in third. What did you like about him?
Yeah, so honestly, what I liked was just the strong bounce back after, what was a little bit of a disappointing effort, certainly. I mean, I know the odds obviously at 25-1 would suggest 2 back that this horse wasn't supposed to perform, but nonetheless, a 73 after the horse had just put up a 91 certainly was a letdown. So it was nice to see the horse bounce back. Really, what just excites me, again, love Michael Maker. I also like the jockey. I don't know his first name, but I recognize
Gerardo.
Yeah, because I know I've seen him ride a few of Wesley's horses before when he sends horses here. But yeah, what I really like about this horse, honestly, is just, again, I think this is a horse that will probably, out of the realistic contenders in this field, is going to get the first jump. Like, if you look at all the horses that we kind of are on and talking about, the horse that's probably going to get the first jump out of them, at least how I see it playing out, is Keystone Field. And the horse definitely has a decent kick, has shown the ability to sit off the pace and win in the past. Also, I just like the resume. I mean, you see there's a lot of graded races that Keystone Field is running. So this horse has plenty of experience against running against tougher fields than this, you could argue, by a decent margin. Again, I think Michael Maker knows what he's doing. I like this spot a lot for Keystone Field. And I don't think you'll get 6-1, but if you do, I would take every bit of that 6-1. Personally, if I were playing this race on my own, I would rather bet Keystone at 6-1 than be betting Creative Minister at 3-1.
I don't disagree with you by any means there, to be honest with you. I mean, this horse has been racing. I mean, just granted, lost by 20, but just to go through Last Samurai, West Willpower, Law Professor, Miles D, Rattle and Roll, Speed Bias. Again, the turf race that I'm drawing a line through it. But, I mean, this horse really can sit the trip. And if he runs back to that 102 buyer he ran at Oaklawn Park in that optional claiming, this horse definitely fits. So I'm also extremely interested in Keystone Field. And then Noah, I'll let you touch on Mask Parade, as that's actually the one horse that we all don't have in our top threes. And then Charlie, I'll let you round out with the eights, and we'll move on.
Yeah, this was kind of a little bit of a wacko horse for me, because if you go back to that 4-year-old form, this horse is running some very solid numbers, and then just hasn't come back the same as a 5-year-old. Was favored in that Knicks Go race Derby weekend, but just hasn't come back the same. Was actually favored over Zozos, which is pretty interesting.
I'll take that money on Zozos. Thank you very much, people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree. This was the horse, Noah, that had a lot of buzz that day. And Mask Parade was going from 1 1/8 to a mile. People thought the cutback was going to really help. And obviously he went off as the favorite from, I believe, like a 6 to 8-1 morning line. And I don't know. I mean, he definitely could be interesting, especially if 12-1. I mean, back running those 97 buyers, running that stalking trip definitely fits him. And I mean, just look at the rate again. This is another horse that you can just look at the top 3 lines, and even in listed stakes. I mean, he had to face Zozos, 3 Technique, who won last weekend at Ellis, I believe, and Art Collector. I mean, just monster horses. Third off the layoff, could improve for Al Stahl, turning 5. I mean, maybe he's just not as good as he used to be. But at 12-1, definitely worth a look. I completely agree with you. Also, before I continue to keep putting it off, but my mom was in the chat earlier. So, Mom, if you're still here, shout out to you. Love you, Mom. Thanks so much for joining the show. But I would so Charlie, Promise Keeper for Dallas Stewart. James Graham ran a monster race last time at Ellis. Just got beat, but runs a 94 buyer. Second off the layoff, turning 5. I mean, this horse, Promise Keeper could just be improving again.
That's the exact thing I saw. It was just a horse where it is getting up there in age, and as we kind of see with the 3 horse, sometimes that could be a bad thing, where the regression just shows off the layoff. But I saw the huge jump from the 81 to a 94, which stood out to me again. And I liked also kind of the difference in trip. You look at this horse in the past, and it tends to be a horse. Granted, it had that one race in March where it went to the lead, but the horse tends to like to sit a little more off the pace and then move. So it was a bit of a different angle to go onto the lead. And the horse didn't really seem to Promise Keeper didn't really struggle with going to the lead. I mean, the horse stayed up the whole way, lost by a neck, which is nothing to be embarrassed about, in a decent optional claiming race. So I definitely think this could be an interesting one. I think my one question on the 8 is I just don't know what trip Promise Keeper is going to go for. If this horse goes right to the lead, I really like the horse, because I think, again, since you're trying to beat horses that want to sit off the lead, I think Promise Keeper could potentially wire this field if Promise Keeper is able to set the pace that's ideal. But I think if the horse goes back to sitting off the pace, I don't love it. And real quick on Mask Parade, this was a horse that I was all over. I do like the horse at 12-1 in the underneaths, but I just need to watch the horse prove it. I can't bet on this horse as a win bet. I would happily take it in the tries, or maybe even throw a little exacta. Again, this was a horse, as you mentioned, when we covered this horse when we covered the race that this horse was in on May 6th, I was on Masquerade. And that for me was what I tried to make as a bold pick because the horse was coming off a large layoff. I think, as you mentioned, the horse opened.
It was me versus you that day because I had Zozos as my best pick of the day. So,
and I remember the horse was like 6 to 8 to 1, and I was bragging about how I was going with some bold pick, and you were going with a more chalky pick, and I was saying that it was going to be cool because your horse I thought was going to go off as a decent sized favorite, and mine was going to be a big price. Next thing you know, you get a great value on your horse, and my horse goes off as a favorite, which I didn't end up actually betting the horse in the race in the end because I was like, this is not the odds I thought I was going to be signing up for. And then doesn't fire at all, has a second chance to bounce back. Granted, it was still a grade 3, not an easy race to try to bounce back in per se, and didn't. So for me with Masquerade, again, love the value as an underneath, but I just can't bet this horse until the horse proves to me that it can get back to the form that we saw in the past.
Guess I'm rubbing off on Charlie. He's using the old Kyle, have to see it before I bet it approach. I love it.
Oh, yeah, a lot of what, you're starting to rub off on me on a lot of the techniques.
Whether for good or for worse.
Better or worse,
Yep. I'm going 6.51. Charlie's going 6.18. Patrick is going 1.68, and Noah's going 6.53. Guys, switching over the PPs again. This is race 9. As I switch over to the Equibase right now, it is the Jonathan B. Schuster Memorial Stakes, going 1 mile and 16th on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. It is again a full field of 11, going around the Horseshoe Indianapolis turf course. I'll switch over the picks right now, and this is the race. I know Charlie feels not strongly about this.
I'm going to get ripped for my top 3, but that's why this was a spread race for me.
I got one of them in there, Charlie. I got your winner in there.
I have 2 double-digit horses in my top 3. I'm going to get ripped.
But, Paul, you're up first, my friend, so you better be ready to take that ripping. But, Charlie, you have the number 11 on top, Gentle Soul, for Brett Calhoun and BJ Hernandez. Ran good races at Fairgrounds, just didn't get there at Churchill last time, being all the way in the back. But what'd you like about Gentle Soul?
Yeah, I just love consistently seeing that there are a lot of respectable figures with Gentle Soul. I like the jockey ride as well. And again, this horse just has when I watch replays, has a really nice kick. The problem is the early speed is a concern, and at times Gentle Soul can, again, just kind of start too far back and have too much work to do late. Now, what I'm hoping for is, I know mile to a mile and a 16th isn't crazy, but again, for a horse where needing more distance to get into tends to be the problem, I like that. The horses, if you look at the best efforts this horse has shown, it has been on the turf in a mile and a 16th. So I do think this horse can step forward. I also love the 6-to-1 price. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. But again, for me, and again, as we get to the ticket later, a lot of the horses that have the favoring odds in this race are horses that have ran a lot farther and are having to make big cutbacks, which to me makes it a question mark. I don't know what's going to happen. Again, this is a spread race. And for me, if you're betting this race, I certainly would spread out on it if you're betting a pick 5. And if you're betting the race vertically, I would look for a long rod horse to take a shot on. I think the favorite's like 4-1, so it's not like there's any heavy favorite. But again, my next 2 picks are both double-digit odds. I think this is the race where if you're looking for the one that's going to blow up tickets and really make the pick 5 pay off, I think it's race 9. That's the race to me where I think you could get a long odd horse come in to win.
Yeah, and I do agree with you, Charlie. No, I'll let you touch on the 11 in a sec, but the 3 favorites, In Love's the third choice that has run well at this distance, but hasn't done it in a long time. Hasn't really run well on the turf since October at Keeneland in an allowance race where actually he ended up losing to Kentucky Ghost, which I just don't know if In Love's as good as he used to be. Arlington legend, by the way, but just not. He has to show it to me before he gets to it. But what Charlie's referencing is the number 2 Strong Tide, who I actually had on top for a long time because I thought he was going to be the pace. But looking over the 2 mile and a half pace doesn't necessarily translate to your mile and a 16th pace. So I do agree with you, Charlie. But Michael Lauer, for Penny Lauer, for his wife, they bring a lot of good horses to Indy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Strong Tide runs well, but I'll talk about him in a little while. But the other favorite is to the outside. I believe it is the number 8 Verstappen, who I actually have on top in this race. But mile and 3/8, mile and a half, ran well at a mile and an 1/8 in the Kentucky Cup Classic at Turfway Park. Granted, it was on the synthetic, and ran well at Keeneland last year in an N1X at a mile and an 1/8. So that's the reason I liked Verstappen, but Charlie, your point is definitely taken that these horses need to go a lot shorter than what they have been going. So, and obviously I have this horse in second, so I do like Gentle Soul a lot. Noah, do you have anything to add before we move to your top pick?
You guys said a lot of what I was going to say. You guys made some really good points. The only thing that I was going to add is that in that race at Churchill, was favored against Camp Hope, who ran in a big stakes race last week. And I know Howard was really on that horse. And I actually watched that race, and Camp Hope had a very difficult trip.
Yep.
So that could definitely be a key race. So definitely a horse to use.
Yeah, that was the set piece race where set piece was miles back and almost got there in the end, but stitched at like 30-1 or something along those lines, got up to win. So that was the one race that blew up the Ellis Park late pick 5. But speaking of that, obviously, Noah, where'd you get that information? The Power Picks, right?
Yep.
Subscribe to those Power Picks, people. They're making, besides that one race, we had 3 winners last week. So subscribe to those Power Picks and subscribe to those new Saratoga Power Picks. It is in the top of the description down below. Thanks for that little plug, Noah. I appreciate it. But anyway, your top pick is In Love. I know I touched on a little bit about him, but what did you like most about him?
I was kind of just banking on the fact that Maker's Mark Mile has been just such a live race. I mean, there have been so many quality horses that have come out of that race. It's definitely possible that this could be a prep for something else, but I just figure the horse is talented. If he runs back to some previous numbers, he's got a big shot. So I just thought he was worth a look.
Yeah, I mean, what a race to see at Keeneland. I mean, that Maker's Mark Mile is insane. It was insane this year, but I don't disagree with you. I think In Love is interesting. You think he might have to, I think he might be a definite use, but I just, like I said before, I just don't know how good he is now. I mean, he's newly 7. Didn't really run well at Turfway, brought him back to Keeneland, where arguably he's done his best running of his whole career. And just really, because obviously he won the Keeneland Turf Mile, but I just don't know how good he is anymore. But if he runs well at 5-1 or higher, I think he's a definite use for sure. I'm going to talk about the number 8 for Stoppin', who Charlie doesn't have and Noah has in second. This horse has been running longer, won the Elkhorn at 16-1 and blew up that pick 5 at Keeneland that day. We were there that day, so I remember this one pretty well. But hot pace and the last as well at Man of War, but ran against the same horses. So I don't know if he just didn't like Belmont that day or whatever. Maybe he doesn't necessarily want too much given the ground because he's run well on firm before. But I just think the cutback can really suit him. He has a really good turn of foot. And obviously his name's Verstappen, so he's extremely fast if any of F1 fans are out there. But he's run well at 1 1/8 before at Keeneland on the turf and at Turfway on the synthetic. So I don't have any issues from the distance. He should get the pace in front of him to be able to close in. And even if it doesn't end up being too fast of a pace, Verstappen will be right in the middle of the pack. So he should have enough to go with everybody. Brenda Walsh is still extremely hot riding on the back of that massive Keeneland meet. So I have no worries in anything of Verstappen. I think he could be the horse to beat in this race. But Noah, I'll let you touch on anything that I didn't touch on as you have this horse in second.
Yeah, everything you said was pretty spot on. I really think that the horse just did not like Belmont. I think that giving the ground is really a thing to focus on, because this horse, that Kentucky Cup Classic at Turfway, I mean, that's some pretty firm stuff. And then the Elkhorn just ran a really nice race.
Yep.
So I think you should be confident in your top pick.
Hey, I love it. Like I said, if you have the horse in second, I'm confident. That's where it comes down to. But Charlie, I'll let you touch on your last 2. I'll touch on the 2 real quick, and I'll let you have the floor. I said Strong Tide's been running at a lot longer. If he does end up showing pace, this could be a race stolen on the front end. There is a little bit. He has actually run really well at Indiana in the past. As you can see by those numbers, 6 races, 5 in the money. You have to go back a little ways, as Strong Tide ran there a lot. Obviously, Michael Lauer brings a lot of his horses over to Indiana. obviously, and this horse is Indiana bred, might I add. I probably should mention that, but just a really good horse. And if he can turn it, if he can do well in the turn back and get towards the front, I think this horse has a massive shot. Anything above 9-2, I think, is really good value on Strong Tide, and I think you might get it. But he does have really good form. Obviously, he was third in the Man of War in that same race, granted at 50-1, but still ran a really bang up race that day. So if he takes the cutback, could really be strong in here. Charlie, the floor is yours. You have the 3, me and Mr. C in second, and the number 5 Gallant Guy in third. But like I said, floor is yours.
Yeah, so to be honest, I was going to put Verstappen third, but I decided since it was going to be on my ticket, he was going to be on my ticket anyway, and I wanted to be different. I figured I'd put the 5 in there. And yeah, so that was I'll talk with the 5 first then because of Racing Downwind's comment. So that was my angle with the 5 horse, to be honest with you, was this horse will be the speed. And you look at this horse, and, normally when a horse is a speed horse and is moving to farther distance, it's not always the easiest adjustment. Sometimes for me, I'll usually write that horse off and I'll think the horse will fade. But, the horse ran a mile on the turf, ran a very respectable figure, and was able to stay on and maintain the lead the whole way. So my angle with the 5 horse was, again, you're getting a solid price. And since you have a lot of horses that are used to going farther, which means if they're closers, going to be hard to have to close quicker than they're used to. And if they're speed, it's going to be harder to deal with, as you mentioned, the speed of a horse that goes a mile versus 2 miles is drastically different. So that's something the 2 could struggle with. So that was my angle with the 5. And then the 3 horse, I'll tell you what, I had this horse on top, and then I got scared last minute and backed out. I love me and Mr. C. If you look at the figures, this horse has been Mr. Consistency other than the second race at 65 figure, every single race, me and Mr. C has had a very respectable figure. Again, I love Michael Maker, like the jockey. Horse ran some very respectable efforts on turf and dirt, so it doesn't really seem like the surface makes a difference. The horse consistently runs its race. Me and Mr. C is always in the money, so at the very least, I think you can get value. But I'll tell you what, again, on my ticket, I'm spreading, but this is a race where, again, I want to see what the live money looks like, but I will definitely be betting this race on my own, and I will definitely be putting a wager on me and Mr. C to win. I don't think you'll get 12-1, but if I get anywhere near that, I will be happy. And I'm more than open to any criticism about me and Mr. C for why I'm wrong, but I don't care. I believe fully in this horse. I love me and Mr. C. I will take every bit of those odds. I love the 3 in this race. And again, Racing Downwind, who I think is, in my opinion, one of our most astute viewers personally. I think a lot of you should definitely check out Racing Downwind's Twitter. I personally pay a lot of attention. As another thing I was about to mention, ran a few bullet works as well. So I do think Gallant Guy is very live in this race as well. But yeah, those folks, if you're looking for some long shot horses, I think the 3 and 5 really make sense to me. And I will give a shout out to Patrick, who's not here, for going with the 4 as a double-digit horse too. So he also went the route of trying to be bold.
He did go with
I think
Kitchen
this is the race to go bold. I think this is the race. If you're looking for a double-digit horse to put on top, I think this is the race, folks, to go for it. Personally.
A fellow Beshizzle My Nizzle, Adam Biscuit's a connoisseur. I love it. But, the 4 is interesting. It's not raced at the level that a lot of these horses have. But Kitten Mischief, the last 2 efforts have been really, really nice. The last one, the Gray Wizard, is in that race, who's a very nice horse. Jonathan Thomas is red hot at, everywhere, but at Indy, he's winning almost 50% on the mark. So, again, 15-1, you'll get on Kitten Mischief. Never talk you off double-digit horse, but I'm going with 8-11-2. Charlie's going 11-3-5. Patrick's going 4-8-9, and Noah's going 10-8-11. Guys, switching over to race 10 here as we cross that 1 hour mark for the podcast, as we are going. Hopefully, you guys are along for the ride. I greatly appreciate everyone.
We're doing a lot of races, to be fair.
We're doing 8 races.
More than half a card.
Yeah, we're doing more than half a card. So this is good because I can talk through wow, Mike Tyson. Every single thing, that I'm going to be there for on Saturday. So I'm very happy that we get to talk through all these horses. But Indiana General Assembly Distaff Handicap for $100,000 for Fillies and Mares 4-year-old and up, going 1 mile and 16th on the turf. What do you know? Horseshoe Indy on a Saturday. It is a full field of 12, with the morning line favorite being the number 8 Henrietta Topham for James Graham, and I think Grant McCauley, I believe is his first name. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I apologize. The second choice
Jeff.
is it Oh, is it Jeff McCauley? Thank you. I appreciate
Jeff
it.
with a G, yeah.
Yeah, close enough. Sweet Danny Girl and the second choice for Gabriel Saez and Carla Veccareza at 7-2, and then the third choice to the inside is the number 3 Juncture for Marcelino Pedroza Jr. and Brad Cox. But switching over the PPs right now and switching over the picks, I think we're all pretty close. Yeah, we are all pretty close, except 3 of us have one horse on top and one of us has the horse absolutely nowhere. And the new guy's going to have some explaining to do because we are all going with the number 8, Henrietta Topham on top. But Noah, my friend, going with the second choice, Sweet Danny Girl for Veccareza. Why are we wrong, Noah? Why is the number 8 going to win this race? Or number 10, excuse me, going to win this race?
I had this 10 on top simply because I think this horse is going to be lone on the lead. I feel like this horse is gonna get the lead with soft fractions. And people could say that the horse kind of was a speed and fade in the last 2. But the thing that I found interesting is this horse gets Lasix back. And if you look at that race 3 back with Lasix, that was against State Bred Company. But that horse ran a pretty monster race at like 5-2. Yep. So I'm just kind of looking for that effort. I don't really know what else to say.
No, you're fine. Because, I mean, this is one of those horses that's going to go straight to the lead from the outside post, hopefully get a pressing trip, I'm sure is what you're hoping for. But as we go through, I mean, we'll go through the pace. Princess Theorem's not fast, or she's fast, but she'll be middle. Same thing with Justify My Love. Juncture's has no speed. Hardy Constitution's most likely running earlier. Howard brings in the crisp teacher joke of she better be fit because if she's running twice, she better be good to go. But most likely running earlier on the dirt would be my guess. But she is cross-entered into both, so keep an eye on the program come race day. Hail 2 is not fast. Has shown some speed in the past, but I don't think she's as fast. Present Moment will not be on towards the top. Lovely Princess won't be. Henrietta Topham won't be. French Cuffs has a little bit of speed, could show a little bit. Sweet Danny Girl is who we're talking about, and the 11. And the 11 has really no speed, and the 12 has a little bit. So really, the only horse might be the 12 going for the lead, Noah. So I don't disagree with you by any means. I don't have this horse anywhere. I just don't know if this horse can class up. But the fact of the matter is, if she has her own lead, I mean, she's going to be really tough in this field. And maybe I just completely missed something as you all of you have the number 10 in your top 3. But Charlie, I'll let you talk about our top pick, Henrietta Topham, who last race in the Mint Julep did get a decent pace to run into, going 1:12-1 to the 3/4, but ran a really, really nice race that day.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think the pace helped Henrietta Topham. But for me, again, this horse likes to sit just off the pace. And I just ultimately think that Henrietta Topham is just, the horse had the 10 Sweet Danny Girl's number in the past. I think the 8 will again. I think the 8 can benefit from sitting just off the pace once again, but staying close enough to be within striking distance. Love James Graham as well as the jockey riding. You see, obviously, he's ridden the horse now twice, and it's been arguably the horse's 2 best efforts. So clearly he knows how to ride the horse to its top potential. I don't know if I love the 3-1 price, but I certainly love it compared to the 7-2 on the 10. I think both of those are kind of short prices for a field this big. But again, Henrietta Topham deserves to be the favorite, hasn't taken a step wrong. Again, 2 solid, not big wins by any means, but solid wins against good fields. I mean, winning a grade 3 last time out. I do expect the 8 to win. I will say I'm a little nervous that I don't have the 10 in my ticket, but we'll see. And then I'll let you talk about the 8 real quick. But I will say when we get to the 1, I love this 1 horse and I love the odds. I don't think you'll get 8-1, but I cannot believe the 1 horse is 8-1. I thought the 1 horse should have been closer to 5-1.
Well, Charlie, you are the only person on this entire panel that has.
I know that's what shocked me the most. Not that Noah didn't have I guess Noah not having the 8 there's a little surprise, but the fact that nobody believes in my 1.
No, I did believe in Princess Theorem, and if I was playing a pick 5, she would be on my ticket. So don't go too far. But Princess Theorem from Brendan Walsh and Adam Beschizza. I won't say it again because I'm sure everyone's going to shoot me if I do say it one more time. But I mean, Princess Theorem is a really nice horse.
Yeah, and again, has run against very tough competition at Gulfstream. Again, Brendan Walsh, a tremendous trainer. The works have been solid. It ran a bullet workout on the all-weather. in a minute flat. The distance does not concern me at all. The horse tends to do its best running at a mile of 16th on the turf. Another one that's going to want to sit just off the pace and get the first turn. And what excites me about Princess Theorem is, again, ultimately, even though I respect Sweet Danny Girl, I just think the horse is going to run out of gas and fade yet again. And for me, while, again, I do think Henrietta Topham should win, if you look, Princess Theorem tends to like to run the same race as the 8, only sits a little bit closer. So if the 8 doesn't get close enough in time and can't get the jump early enough, soon enough, Princess Theorem's going to get that jump first. And again, for a horse that runs similar figures and again runs a similar style, that again, with why I think we both agree the 8 is appealing, is the 8 should get the trip that it's looking for. I think the 1 wants a similar trip. And if you're telling me I can get that trip with a horse that again ran against good competition at 8-1, I'm taking this is another race where on my ticket I'll have both, but if I'm betting this race on my own, I think the 8 will end up getting bet down a lot more and it'll probably end up going off favorite 5-2. I will happily take every bit of those odds on Princess Theorem when I play this race on my own.
Yeah, and as Racing Downwind even says, you might get 10-1 plus, because this race there's a lot of good horses in this race. So Princess Theorem might slip under the radar, but she is definitely interesting in this spot, because I do like Princess Theorem in this race. Just kind of, this was the one horse that kind of slipped below my top 3. But Noah, me and you have the same underneath horses, and then Charlie, I'll let you. Or no, the 10 was already talked about, so you get nothing.
Yeah, I already covered the 10. No,
the number 3 is Juncture for Brad Cox and Marcelino Pedroza Jr. This morning line 6-1 into 2 pretty cold paces. I mean, going 48-4 at Keeneland, and then at Lone Star going 47-1 on a very firm track that was at Lone Star that day. Was able to close really hard and able to get up at the end. I mean, I don't know if you'll get 6-1 just based on connections alone, but she definitely is very interesting.
Yeah, there's actually a funny story behind this horse. I mean, this horse really, she hasn't done much wrong since coming to the States. I actually left her off a pick 5 ticket at Keeneland because the one hole at Turf Routes at Keeneland was absolutely atrocious. It was so bad. I wanted to use this horse so bad, but I was just like, there's something wrong with the stat. Like I cannot use this horse. But was 2-1, which the horse should have been. And then in that last race at Lone Star, the speed figure was probably a little bit slow compared to these others, but she just did it very professionally. Yeah. And I mean, Brad Cox has done absolutely nothing wrong bringing these horses here to Indy. So yeah. It could be just another one of those, add that tally to 11, make it 12.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I don't know if you'll get, like I said, I don't know if you'll get 6-1 just based on connections alone. Brad Cox horses out there really tend to get bet down as they did anywhere, usually in that Midwest area. But she definitely fits, and if there's enough speed in front of her, obviously she doesn't need it, but if there is enough speed, Juncture is definitely one that will be there to pick up the pieces. But we have the number 7 underneath, Lovely Princess for Kenny McPeak and BJ Hernandez. This is one of those horses, Charlie, we were talking about last race that, she's rented 1.5 miles and 1.1 miles and done really well. Hasn't done too much better going shorter, although broke her maiden at 1 16 miles and ran a decent race against Bubble Rock in the Mistress Revere. But no, I'll let you touch on again, and I'll bring up the rear. What'd you like about Lovely Princess?
Yeah, you said it right there. I mean, I think this horse would probably be my top pick if this race was longer than 1 16 miles. I just think the quality of those last 2 at a longer distance would probably I think they would win this race. Yeah. At 1 16 miles, that's definitely a question mark. So yeah.
She's just really improving, and she might get the trip because at 1.8 miles in 1 16 miles, she still likes to sit just off the leaders. She'll usually get that stalking trip, and she's been improving ever since starting her 2023 campaign. Ran an 85 at Keeneland in an N2X, and then ran a 90 in the Kirtana State listed stakes at Churchill at 1.5 miles. But she even kind of faded towards the end, where she just was the better than everybody else in that race, but just kind of died out a little bit. So cutting back a little bit, I think, will help her in a spot like this, which is obviously why I have her 3rd. But I just don't know if she's better going longer, Noah. So I completely agree with you. That's why I have her in 3rd. But Charlie, I'm going to let you finish it out here. The number 10, or no, Sweet Danny Girl. Again, I did it again. You get nothing and like it. But I think there's a lot of different ways you can go in this spot. This one might be another spread race. Again, keep your eyes on the tote board as Hardy Constitution is cross-entered in a spot like this. She's interesting in both spots, I think, although a little slow for this field. I think she fits a lot better in that dirt race earlier for the same amount of money. But obviously, we'll have to see what the connections do. I'm going 8-3-7. Charlie's going 8-1-10. Patrick's going 8-7-10. And Noah's going 10-3-7. Guys, moving on to race 11. It is the penultimate race on the card, but is also the second biggest stakes race on the card. It is the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt track for 3-year-old fillies. Again, a field of 8, the smallest field on the entire card, which is pretty good for a race. And the morning line favorite, which I thought was actually really interesting. The morning line favorite is the number 5 Defining Purpose for BJ Hernandez and Kenny McPeak. And we lost Charlie, but so that means no, we are on our own for right now until he comes back. I apologize for the connection issues. I'm sure his internet just went out and he'll be back very shortly. But Patrick, actually, no, nobody is going with the chalk on top. Or no, Noah is. Excuse me. I lied. You like Defining Purpose. I'm not on it today, to be honest with you. But you're going with Defining Purpose, again, who I was a little bit surprised being the morning light favorite in this spot. What did you like most about Defining Purpose?
I'm kind of interested to see what you guys have to say, because this was a pretty soft pick for me. The thing that I was kind of looking for most were the intentions. I feel like Ken McPeak, Brian Hernandez Jr., they're coming to Indy for this race. You know this horse is going to be ready, a little off the layoff. She should be fit and ready to go. So that was kind of my thought process.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the intent, right? She doesn't run very well in the Kentucky Oaks, although she did have a stutter step, as it states there. I'll show the replay a little bit going through. Actually, I can't because it's Churchill, excuse me. But as we all know, that fiasco. I forgot that was obviously it's Kentucky Oaks. I don't know what I'm forgetting, but she did take a bad step, and she did get herself involved into a hot pace, going 1:11-1 to the 3/4 and 1 mile and 1/8 at Churchill. But I just don't know. There is a lot of other speed in this race, even just for an 8-horse race. The 7 is going to want to go. The 8's definitely going. The 3's definitely going. And the 2 is not, and Tax won't go. Or the 3's going to sit off, hopefully. Obviously, as high for her on top. But Tax is not slow. The 5's going to have to deal with most likely the 6 to her outside. The 7 is probably going to sit middle, and the 8's going to be on the lead. So that was kind of my angle. I think you might just get a little bit more pace than what she bargained for in here. But going back to 1 mile and 16th from 1 mile and 1/8, I think does help her, as I have her in third. I just don't know if she's going to be good enough to hold off the closers with the other pace next to her. I don't think she'll be 8-5. I think actually Howard says it in the chat right now. I think Tax will go off as the morning line favorite, being that she won the freaking Black Eyed Susan, for Christ's sake, by 3 3/4. I think Tax will probably be around the 7-5 mark, and it'll be 7-5, 2-1 in this spot. But Charlie, you have the number 2 Tax on top while we're on her. Please feel free to expound on anything that I said.
Yeah, so honestly, I believe it was Patrick who was all over. Was it Patrick who was all over Tax when we covered that race?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I know I was not on Tax at all in that race. The figures were impressive to me, but again, it was one of those where I needed to see it before I believed it that the horse could take the step forward that Patrick correctly predicted the horse would. For me, I agree with what the boss man's saying, though. I mean, the workouts are incredible with 59-3 a minute and 4. The horse took another step forward. I do think Tax is incredibly difficult in this spot, but I also think this is an underratedly strong field, which is why I did spread a little bit. I know the 3 was a horse that I think you and I think everybody besides Patrick was high on in Merlaza and just disappointed. So, I mean, did mention, though, the horse got the brush start. But if you look at some of the races back, I think those races fit where if Merlaza can get back to going back to slowly improving, you fill the last race out, I think Merlaza, certainly as well with Brad Cox as the trainer, could be a threat at a decent price. And then I just couldn't leave Defining Purpose out of my top 3 either. I mean, I know the last race certainly was an issue, but again, as you mentioned with the stuttered step, kind of messing the horse's race up. So for me, personally, I'm probably 2-3 deep in this race. I think on my ticket when we get to it. But yeah, Tax to me is the horse that makes sense. I was very surprised, as the boss man mentioned, that Tax wasn't the opening favorite. I think Tax will go off as the favorite, deservedly so. And yeah, I mean, this was one that's just going to kind of naturally hurt my pick 5 ticket because I don't want to lose. So I'm going to probably have a bunch of small prices on it. But again, that's where I'm going back to just banking on that race earlier that I'm spread out and making me my money back. So, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Like I said, I think Tax will go off as the morning favorite. She's definitely the horse to beat in this spot. I went a little bit off the grid here. I went with Merlaza on top. And this is a horse that I was all over on Black Eyed Susan Day, and I loved in the Black Eyed Susan. And then all of a sudden, Drew just went to the lead with her. And I was like, I couldn't believe my eyes. Like the trip that I thought Merlaza was going to get was the exact same trip that Taxed got on the outside, an outside stalking trip where she was able to just go out at the top of the stretch and just blow by everybody. That is what I envisioned Merlaza doing. Instead, she went to the lead with Hoosier Philly and Feza and just never really did it. And she kind of just faded out because I don't think that's what she likes to do. I think going back to a mile and a 16th and hopefully going back to her stalking ways is really going to be the key for her in this spot. She's working well at Churchill. Brad Cox pointed her to this spot after that Black Eyed Susan Stakes. I really like Merlaza here. And if you get 6-1 on her, I will definitely be placing a win bet on anything above probably 6-1 would be my value line. Anything above 6-1 on Merlaza, a win bet will be going on. I just think hasn't shown the talent that she really has. And if she's able to sit the trip, I hope she gets. I think she's going to be very, very good in this spot. Maybe not enough to beat Taxes. That 90 buyer is imposing. But I think, like I said, I thought Merlaza was going to get the same trip. So if she ends up getting that same trip, I think she's going to be very, very good, as I said. But
that's how I saw with the 3 as well. I think we both, when we covered that race, had the same thought that the horse would get the trip that Tax ended up getting, which, again, credit to Patrick. He was the one who said that Tax would get this trip. I think we thought the 3 would get the same trip and had a better kick, which is what we'd seen in the past. And, again, Flaunt Giroux, which, I mean, look, he's a very talented jockey in his own right. Had plenty of wins on horses that we've covered in this show. So, all respect to him, no disrespect intended. But again, as you mentioned, ran a very questionable trip to say the least in the style based off of how Merlaza has tended to prefer to run. So I'm hoping, as you are with the 3, that's where I'm hoping the 3 can win this race to help keep my ticket at a good price. Because I'm also hoping that Merlaza goes back to sitting more off the pace, which is where this horse has been at its best.
I completely agree with you. Nothing more to add onto that. But Noah, you have the number 6 in second, Lily Poo. Patrick actually has this horse on top. So Patrick definitely believes in this horse coming from the West Coast, Santa Anita and Golden Gate and Del Mar for Michael McCarthy. What did you like most about Lily Poo?
I really wish Patrick was on so I could hear what he has to say about this horse because I think this horse is coming from out of California, probably going to fly under the radar. But California is kind of my specialty. Being from there. But this horse, she ran a pretty nice race in that Summer Oaks and lost to Window Shopping, who is a really well-thought horse for Richard Mandela. She won that race really nicely. And Window Shopping was, I want to say the second choice in the Oaks Prep at Santa Anita way back in either March or April, whenever it was. So this horse has been running against a sneaky talented field, and I feel like she can definitely clunk up and get in the money somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely talented enough. Obviously, with a lot of these West Coast horses, mainly on the turf track, you could have question marks, but that was a very fast pace that day where she got crowded, as it says in the notes to the side. She kind of got pushed back all the way. She doesn't do her best running from the way back. So definitely put Rispoli in a spot where he didn't want to be in, but still made a really good run and kind of just faded out in the last 1/8 of a mile to obviously Window Shopping, who won that race going away, who's a really nice horse, a really nice filly. But I don't know how she's going to class up into a field like this, but the buyer, she can continue to improve off that 81. She definitely has a fit, maybe not winning on top, but she definitely has a place to fit underneath. So I don't disagree with you by any means, Noah. Whether she runs a mid 80s and runs second or third, or she able to take a big step forward and Tax kind of regresses, and she's able to run that same type of trip that we envision Tax and Merlaza getting. But I'm going 3-2-5. Charlie's going 2-5-3. Patrick's going 6-5-2, and Noah's going 5-6-3. Guys, switching over to the last race, and of course is the featured race of the day. It is the Grade 3 Indiana Derby for three-year-old males going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt, a field of 9 going around the Horseshoe Indianapolis dirt track with the favorite, a very imposing number 5 verifying for Marcelino Pedroza Jr., Brad Cox, the second choice. Just to his outside is Hayes Strike for BJ Hernandez and Kenny McPeak. And the number 3, Orlando Mojica, Larry Ravelli is your third choice at 6-1. And guys, I switch over the picks right now and switch over the PPs. Every single one of us, as most likely everybody, I probably should have played the game on how many people had verifying on top, but completely slipped my mind. We all have verifying on top. Again, as I stated, looks very imposing in a field like this. I think this is a great spot for him. Noah, as you are still basically the guest at this point, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about verifying first, coming off a really nice race in the Matt Wind, who just lost to a very talented horse in his own right, Disarm.
Yeah, I just think this horse is probably the best out of this field. Disarm has really improved this year and is been about a lot of talks as being a really nice horse come Breeders' Cup time. So I think that race was definitely legit, even though it was on the slop. This horse has back numbers to prove that this horse is definitely talented. And, Brad Cox again, I mean, he's just superb bringing these horses here. And I kind of want to talk about the 3 because I have this horse in second, and I could very easily just suck up to the boss and put the Hawthorne horse in my top 3, but I legitimately think this horse has a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the horse, in my opinion, Charlie, I'll let you touch on it. I think the horse has more than a shot. I think this horse is easily the best horse in the race and definitely the colt to beat. Charlie, do you have anything odd to add on to verifying? Obviously, there's not too much to talk about.
No, for me, this is a very straightforward race. Verifying, barring anything going drastically wrong, in my eyes, wins this race easy. It's no disrespect to the other horses in this field. It's simply verifying is at least a class above. I think you could argue multiple classes above. The Derby obviously was too tough, but that's the best of the best. For me, there was no horse in this field that we have to give a top 3, so I picked the other 2 that were interesting to me to put up a fight. But really, verifying has no excuses not to win this race. I don't know how personally you couldn't single verifying in this spot. Obviously, if you don't, I think this would be one where you either single verifying or bet against verifying, which I think is kind of risky to do. And I know you've kind of highlighted where if you're a value player to kind of do something like, like maybe you play one ticket where you're all over verifying and another where you pick a few prices that you think, because you'll get a price on any horse on this field, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think verifying is going to go up even money or less. But yeah, the horse has all the talent in the world, bounced back from a brutal Kentucky Derby effort, which again, I don't really, I put a line through that race. I think that's just, you never know what's going to happen.
It's a Derby. Yeah.
But the fact that the horse, bounced back and ran a 101 career best effort after that, you don't know how a horse is going to respond after that difficult of an effort. I mean, I knew it would be weaker, but still, you don't know how a horse feels after that. And I think the horse ran tremendously well. The work say yes, the connections are obviously strong. I think verifying is the easy, obvious winner here.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing to add really to verifying. He's definitely the horse to beat in this race. And if he continues to be an improving 3-year-old off that 101 buyer, it's definitely going to be tough to beat in this race. I have the number 8 in second.
Yeah,
we have the same exact picks. Yeah. I just noticed that. No, you actually don't have the 8 anywhere, but I thought 8-1 was extremely generous on this 8, even though it didn't really run well in the Louisiana Derby and has run well in Optional Claiming Company, but Scotland's a nice horse, and 8. I mean, all of 8-1. I really like this horse at 8-1, Charlie.
Oh, I love everything about this one. See, for me, again, as something I'll continue to explain to people, is the way I see races like this. I know on my ticket I'm just going to have Verifying, but when I'm betting this race straight up, I'm not going to bet Verifying to win because I'm good betting $20 to win 20 or 15 or something on this horse. I would happily rather place $3 to 4 or $5 on a 5/8 exacta that'll pay a heck of a lot more. I love I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'll let you pronounce it again. But at 8 to 1 on the 8 just shocked me. I mean, again, when you're betting against the heavy favorite, or you're trying to pick a horse to go with it, you want to go with a horse that's going to go with the opposite style. And obviously, Verifying's going to want to be on or near the lead. So why not go for a horse that has obviously not great early speed, but in my opinion, on paper, the best late kick of any horse in this field. And again, ran against some decent horses. Obviously struggled in the Louisiana Derby, but I also think the horse didn't get the trip that it wanted in the Louisiana Derby. You see, it was right up on the pace, which I don't think helps this horse. I think this horse prefers to sit mid or towards the back. And again, I don't see why the 8 horse couldn't finish second or third in this race. And I think you could really benefit with a 5/8 exacta and find a great way to make some money in this race. And then with the 7, it was the same angle with Hay Strike. I hate the odds, to be honest. I don't like this horse at 3 to 1. I think Verifying's a lot better. And I think the exacta won't pay that well with Hay Strike. But again, another one that's a very solid closer. The lack of speed does concern me. I'd rather play the 5 over the 8, but I think the 7 is a very respectable horse that can get somewhere to pay out, and I think is good enough horse to come top 3. But again, for me, I would be trying to play the 5 over the 8. That's where I see the value, and I just like the 8 horse odds aside.
Yeah. I mean, completely agree with you, Noah. You have the 7 and third, just like Charlie and I do. I'll let you touch on a little bit of Hay Strike, and then we'll move into your second place horse, which is the number 3. But what do you see kind of in Hay Strike?
This is another for McPeak that he's shipping over here. The horse is really talented and has run some strong numbers. There were two knocks I had on this horse. One, I think he's going to be way too far back. Yep. I think the only chance that this horse has of winning would be to be a bit closer. And then the second was just coming back really quickly. And that Ohio Derby, I mean, I know 2 fills is 2 fills, but to lose by 12 3/4, that doesn't seem impressive to me at all. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That was my exact. Maybe he clunks up for 3rd, but he's going to be, just based on his running style, Hay Strike's going to be very far back. So anything to clunk up into 2nd or 3rd, I would take him, but it's going to take a big effort for this horse with not a lot of pace in this race to be able, especially with a horse like Verifying on the front end, to be able to reach him from probably, I was about to say 9th on the grid, Charlie, from 9th coming around the turn. But Hay Strike's definitely one to consider underneath. And Charlie, Noah, excuse me. Noah, you have the number 3, Act a Fool for actual Arlington legend Larry Ravelli.
And the owners, how about that? Patricia's Hope, man. They win every race.
And Richard Raven, too. I mean, there's all of them. But this horse has run really well at Hawthorne, now ships over at Indiana. What'd you like most about Act a Fool?
I just think that this horse is just going to go. I think the greatest chance of this horse of winning this race is just to go. I don't pay attention too much to that turf race at Hawthorne, even though that was a really nice listed stake and ran really well. I just think Ravelli wanted to get a 2-turn race under the belt. I feel like he's pointing to this spot, and I think he's got a lot of confidence in his horse to ship him here.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming back really quick too, right? I mean, this horse has ran June 25th and is already coming back 2 weeks later to run on July 8th. So, I mean, granted, that horse, Act a Fool, that was the Hawthorne Invitational Day. And that Act a Fool had the lead, even though it shows hot pace numbers, that horse had one of the easiest leads I've ever seen in my life. Like, just no one wanted to go with him. He's like, you'll fall eventually. It's fine. And it never did. And I don't think the horse is his best on turf either. I just think that was a very beneficial pace scenario. So coming back to the dirt, I like him a lot more. But it's just a matter of with a little bit of other speed, especially with the Verifying to his outside, which is going to get a pressing trip, most likely in this spot. I just don't know if he's really going to class up to a horse like Verifying. But Act a Fool is definitely interesting. And the last horse I want to touch on is the number 2, Raise Cane. Obviously won the Gotham at Aqueduct on the Derby Trail, ran 5th in the Bluegrass, and ended up running 8th in the Kentucky Derby. Came back in the Matt win afterwards. That same race Verifying was in, and just never really had the closing kick that Disarm had that day. But definitely Racing Downwind likes the number 2 as he thinks he'll get a jump to the closers if this horse runs back to the how he broke his maiden
46
or
and 2.
46 and
Did I
2
read
at
that right?
Keeneland.
Oh my
Granted, out of 2 horses, but 46 and 2 is very quick. This horse is definitely fit. I just don't know how really good this horse is, especially since this horse, based on most recent form, this horse is going to be another one coming from the back as well. I just don't know how good this horse really is. And to catch up with a horse like Verifying, I just don't know. Like I said, I don't know if this horse is going to be good enough. Definitely a play underneath, especially a 10-1. But I would be much rather looking the horses up front, like Verifying. And Active Fool, I think, is extremely interesting, especially if he stays above that 6-1 price point. I'm going 5-8-7. Charlie's going 5-8-7. Patrick's going 5-3-8. And Noah's going 5-3-7. Guys, going to switch over to our best bets of the entire weekend as we close out a very long show here for Horseshoe Indianapolis for one of their big stakes weekends for Indiana Derby weekend. But Noah, again, since you came on late, you sent me a pick 5, so we're going to go over that. And again, the new format of the show, what I kind of want to do is I want to expand a little bit more than just pick 5s. You know, if people like a win bet on certain horses, or people like doubles as I do, but we're going to kind of venture out in a few different ways. But Noah did give out a pick 5, as I will read right now, as he's going 1, 3, 5, 6, 8 with 2, 6, 8, 10, 11 with 3, 10 with 5 with 3, 5, which is a $50 pick 5. Spread. Narrow, basically, is how this ticket goes. Noah, talk about your ticket construction and all your opinions.
Yeah, I saw Howard had kind of a similar kind of construction to this sequence, which I think is probably smart. In the first race, Creative Minister could definitely win, but I don't have a lot of faith in him. So I've got Keystone Field. He was mentioned. Masquerade, I think, can run a big race. And then in the second race, that race is about as wide open as it gets.
Yeah.
I've got 5 there. And then in the third, if I had a little more money, I would probably use more, but I'm on a bit of a college budget right now, so I can't quite spread as much as I'd like to. So I just went with Sweet Danny Girl, who I thought we're going to get on the lead and see if she can just take them all the way. And then Juncture, I thought was definitely interesting for Brad Cox. And then in the Oaks, I kind of think it's probably a 2-horse race between Taxed and Defining Purpose. And I didn't really get to say much about Taxed, but I'm kind of personally against Taxed. So I just kind of have a soft single on Defining Purpose and try and get through. And then in the last 2, Verifying could definitely be a single, but I feel like you could get a lot of value if another horse wins. So I just threw the 3 in.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where the value would come in, right? Is even if it comes all chalk, if Verifying gets beaten that last race, who's definitely, in my opinion, the most likely single on the card, there's a ton of value there if you can beat him. And I love the college budget reference, as we use that a lot on this show. Me, not so much anymore, as I'm like a year and a half removed from college now, which is absolutely ridiculous to say for me. But we relate strongly to the college budget around here. But Noah, thanks again for joining the show on such late notice. I appreciate it. Charlie, best bet and a pick 5. This man's pulling out all the stops. Although I will give him a little bit of shit because he's giving 2 win bets.
Wait, I
horses
want to
that
edit
would
one
be
of them.
6 to 5.
I'm going to edit one of them. So,
all right, what do you want?
Constitution, I'm sticking with because that one I just love. I'm editing the Verifying one because that one's too boring. Yes, I'm making my best bet instead going to be a 5-8 exacta.
Yeah,
because just taking Verifying to win is boring. And I'll be honest, folks. I originally just made the pick 5, and then I saw Kyle in our chat said you can also throw in best bet, so I kind of tried to scramble to give something for you. As Kyle mentioned, I am trying to go all out for the people at least. And yeah, kind of sticking to what Noah said, trying to be on a college budget around that $50. So that's how I got to my pick 5. So as I mentioned, the first race on it, I believe personally, Lisa, I know a lot of people think it's a spread race. For me, it's more of a 3-horse race. I was between, I believe, was that the race with Keystone Field. So Keystone Field, again, was the horse I praised at 6-1 for some value. But then obviously, I mean, Creative Minister should win this race, but we've been saying that about people have been saying that about Creative Minister for a lot of races. And then Promise Keeper, another one that is showing a lot of improvement, second off the layoff, so could be interesting. Then going into the next race, this is the one that I think is a disaster. Major sped race. This is the one where I think you can get a double digit to win. Again, folks, another one I wanted to pull in Arlington, but I didn't. But at Arlington, for those who don't know, they would have like a long shot Louis thing where they would pick a double digit odd horse to win a race. So if you're looking for that, for me, it's me and Mr. C, the 3 horse at 12-1. That would be my long shot Louis. And then with the 1-8, again, another horse I love at a price is Princess Theorem, but I do believe the 8, what was that, Henrietta?
Henrietta Topham, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I do think the 8 is tough, but I still believe that Princess Theorem could pull off the upset. Then I know for the short prices, it's a bit risky to spread. But again, I do think Tex should win, but I still believe in the 3 horse. I do believe that Merlaza could bounce back, and I couldn't risk leaving up to Find a Purpose. And again, I think Verifine's just too tough. It has to be a single for me because Verifine's just so much better than the rest. And I just think the way the race plays out, there's not a whole lot of speed. It's really just the 1, the 3, and the 5. But I think the 1 and 3 are going to gas out. The 5 will be effortlessly alone when it comes to the end. And then you're just going to have a bunch of closers closing up late, passing the weakening horses to get in the money. And I'm banking on the 8 being that horse for my other best bet. And there's my ticket, $54.
$54 and the college budget. We love it. But
and shout out to the 9 who's on my ticket, McLovin. I just threw it in for the name because it's a spread race, and I was like, you know what? It'd be so cool to win with a horse named McLovin.
McLovin's not that bad of a horse, but I do respect it. I do respect it.
But I was like, you know what? It's a name drop and a half. And how cool would it be to hit a big pick 5 and say, yeah, McLovin was part of my winning ticket? Had to put it on there. All-time movie.
I mean, the all-time movie is right, but I mean, the horse is off a big layoff, but ran big numbers last year. So I don't think McLovin's necessarily impossible either.
I mean, 10-1 in that race off that big of a layoff. Obviously, the morning line people see something as well besides the name.
Not to mention, well, the name could play a part in it, but not to mention Rudy Brissett's really good off of 180-plus layoff. So that's another thing to take in. I'm going to give up Patrick's best bets because, again, he gave me all his picks, but ended up couldn't be here tonight. But Patrick's best bets are actually very similar to mine. He's got 2 doubles, the race 4 double, 1 singling Hardy Constitution into the number 6 in the 5th race, who is a horse I don't have in there. Who is that number 6? I'm searching up right now.
That's Louis Poo, isn't it?
No, it's not. That's Ease Magic for Mike Maker, who I actually don't have in there, but I have 3rd. And then race 11 is Defining Purpose and Lily Poo into Verifying. Is his race 11 double. So that's race 4, the 1 with 6, and race 11 double 5-6 with 5. And again, like I said, very similar to mine as I bring mine up on the screen, except I just have different horses. But same exact races. Race 4, I'm also singling Hardy Constitution, but I'm going 1 with 112. That's Corningstone, the number 1, and the number 12 is Star Wisher for Tony Granitz. I think those 2 are the 2 to beat, in my opinion, while still getting decent value. I'm hoping for about 5-1 doubles or higher. I'm hoping for 6-1 doubles, honestly, in that big of a field. I'm hoping the 1-1 is 6 or 7-1, and the 112 is about 8 or 9-1. So hopefully I can play those relative to pay out the same. It's called Dutching, for those of you that don't know. Hopefully pay out the same exact price. And whether I play them for like 30 and 20, I usually like the budget around $50 for these doubles. So 30 and 20 to pay 200 or something like that would be my inevitable goal. And then race 11, I'm going 2-3 with 5. That's Taxed and Merlaza going into Verifying. So for Tax double, I'm hoping for at least 4-1. And then on the Merlaza double, I'm hoping for double that at 8-1. So that way I can do like a 35-20 or 35-15 or something like that scenario where they Dutch to be able to get me to about 150. So that is those are my 2 best bets on the double. Hopefully we can get at least one, if not both of them, home. But for everybody out here, like I said, thank you all so much for watching. I know it's a track that we normally don't cover and honestly doesn't get that big of a pull, but support these local tracks to the people of like Indiana and stuff like that. It means a lot to them. Rest in peace, Arlington. But on these big days where they have these massive fields, this is every bettor's dream. Highly recommend playing Horseshoe Indianapolis on Saturday, not only for the big fields, but for the really live racing as well. For my co-host Noah Maher, I almost did it again, Noah. For my co-host Noah Maher and Charlie Freeman, this has been Kyle Roscoe in episode 29 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.